Rose Buddies. Hello. How are you on this lovely Tarot Tuesday? I hope everybody's weeks are starting with some intention and going as planned in this year where honestly nothing goes as planned. It keeps us on our toes, 2020. Today's Tarot Tuesday, we are going to be warming up a little bit, talking about what do you do with tarot cards if you've got your first deck, you're totally brand new, or maybe you don't even have a deck yet. I've been getting some questions about, well, what do I do once I get one? So we'll talk a little bit about that. Oh, hey, Tyler. Nice to see you in the chat. Then we'll talk about our main topic today, which is reversed cards. And I'm wondering if anybody watching, if you are a tarot enthusiast, do you have thoughts and opinions on reversed cards? Do you use them? Do you not use them? Do they intimidate you? Does it just seem like too much work? I'm curious. But before we jump into everything, just some Lisa life stuff. If you tuned into Storytime yesterday, I talked a bunch about all of the various hobbies I've been doing, which of course I'm not prepared today to do show and tell, so you'll have to catch the beginning of the VOD for the previous video if you want to see things. But I've been knitting, I started a really cool shawl, I have been roller skating, started a new hobby. Oh, she is the weather. Thank you so much for the sub. And I got an emote out of it, so I'm going to hit this button. What did I get? Wait, hold my laptop up close. Oh no, she's crying. I thought she was like holding up a teacup from far away. My vision's really blurry. But you know what? Crying emote, I can kind of get a lot of use out of that, so thank you. Yeah, I've been roller skating just in my garage, which is the smoothest surface we have. My husband helped clear it out. And I accessorized my roller skates with like a very witchy colors, lace charms, a leash to hold my skates over my shoulder, and honestly knowing that my skates are really cute and I want to be able to wear them and skate outside like a big girl is what's keeping me going. Roller skating's hard. Getting started is hard, but it feels good to be doing a physical activity. You just started reading reverse cards recently. Oh, what made you decide to make that switch? Oh, Millie the GM, yeah, the notifications do cover my face, but just for a moment. I'm back. Other things I've been into, I've been really into researching mechanical keyboards. I built my first one, and when stuff works, I wanted to build my own keyboard because like underneath the keycaps, there are these things called switches. And there's so many different types of switches out there, and they can also look cute, even though for most keyboards they're totally covered. And they have all different like feels and weights that you need to like make the keys do their thing. And I really wanted to try particular switches, and the only way you can really do that is to make your own keyboard. So I got all the parts to make a keyboard from scratch, and I soldered the switches in, and when it works, it feels so good. Well, honestly, pressing the buttons feels really good, but I was a little bit sloppy soldering it, and I'm finding out, because every once in a while, every few days, one key stops working, and I unscrew the keyboard apart, and I take it upstairs to my soldering iron, and I see where I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I didn't fully cover the pin, so it stopped working, and I just resolder it. It's been a big learning experience, and I've been totally geeking out about it. Oh, hey, Bianca. Thanks for joining. Oh my gosh, Tyler, you're right. If you like click-clacks dice, custom keyboards are a natural progression. Even the like artisan keycaps you can get are so similar to me to like artisan handmade dice. It's resin pouring too, so there's a lot similar in the craft. But it's dangerous seeing that forbidden candy, and expensive seeing that forbidden candy. Yeah, if you think building your own keyboard from scratch instead of getting one that someone else has put together for you, at least comparing like a special keyboard where you've gotten particular switches and keycaps and everything, that's way more expensive than just buying like a standard ready-made keyboard with more standard switches in it. But I feel like that's kind of the way with lots of hobbies. They end up being way more Just like for knitting, for example, a lot of folks think, oh, well, if you make your own sweater, then that's cheaper than buying a sweater. But no, like knitting supplies, and if you want really nice yarn and stuff, and inevitably you end up wanting all the yarn. There's a struggle with new hobbies, for sure. Oh, that's so heckin' cool. She is the weather. Thank you for being so sweet. But I also wanted to talk about Cozy Wisdoms, which is my tarot zine. Those of you who've tuned into Tarot Tuesday before will recognize this, because this is the second printing. You'll see I've changed the font on the cover from black to white, so it pops a little more. It's a little easier to read. I didn't realize how blendy the black would be on the blue. But the interior is all the same. It has 8 little tarot spreads. Here we have my Flowers of the Week, a nice weekly spread. And then the spreads vary from 2 cards to, I think, the one with the most is 6, maybe 7. No, it's 6. 6 cards. And it's just 8 little tarot spreads. I really like being inspired by the shapes of the things that inspire the spread. So like the Flowers of the Week, I crossed the cards so that they would look like little flowers. And that, for me, when I do, it's not just so that it looks cute in the graphic, although it certainly does, but what that does for me is as I'm drawing cards and placing them down, because I'm placing them in particular spots to make these shapes, it really makes me focus on the intent of the spread. So that's Cozy Wisdoms. It just got restocked this week on my Etsy, which is etsy.com/shop/Penrose Witchery. And you can pick up a Cozy Wisdom zine. I've got a bunch of them this time. I want folks who want them for Samhain gifts this week, or Yule gifts coming up. I want everyone to be able to pick one up. They're $6 shipped in the US. Oh, Tyler says, this makes me really happy from a sacred geometry perspective. Yeah, shapes matter. But let's talk tarot, huh? So folks who are tuning in right now in the chat, tell me a little bit about where you are in your tarot journey. Is this something you are just kind of looking into? It interests you? Do you have your own tarot deck that you've been reading, or you haven't done anything with it yet? Or do you have an embarrassing number of tarot decks that you hide in neatly organized in shoe boxes like me? Oh, hey, Rin, thanks for subbing with Prime. For 4 months. Enjoy your sparkly rose. So for myself, I have long collected tarot decks just as like really pretty art pieces. I just see one with art that I adore, and I feel this, especially if it's on like Kickstarter or something, I feel this like fear of missing out, this FOMO that I need to collect this beautiful art. But it's only recently, with starting this Tarot Tuesday stream, that I've really immersed myself in learning about reading the cards. Before, I would do spreads or daily draws, which we'll talk about in a second, and look on apps or little white books to read about the meanings, which is totally fine. But I wanted to be able to learn to read intuitively, so that's what we're doing here. Yeah, FOMO is totally real. I've been semi-collecting for 14 years, says She Is the Weather. I have many decks, a few I use more regularly, just getting back into tarot lately thanks to Friday. Yeah, Friday, I don't think they're doing their Tuesday stream anymore, but their morning meditation streams, which are Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7 a.m. Pacific time, and their Twitch handle is Friday Afternoon Tea. A lot of the times cards get pulled out, or they'll post about they're doing tea and tarot drawings. Bianca says, I knew tarot back in high school, which was a long time ago, so I picked up the Tarotorial deck. What? That pun. That's a pun I actually like, a couple weeks ago. Raider Tot says, I still consider myself a novice tarot reader. Oh, hey, Alphaba85. Thanks for following. I still consider myself a novice tarot reader, but I am a bit of a collector of decks and think I probably have about 10-ish. Oh, yes. Those beautiful, beautiful cards. Tyler just got Forest of Enchantment today. Can't see it. Tyler is blind. But I fell in love with it when my friends described it. Looking forward to finding ways to engage and learn it. Oh, I'm really excited to hear about your journey, Tyler. Oh, She's the Weather clarifies that Friday does indeed draw a card in the morning streams. I miss Friday's Tarot Tuesdays, though, but I know streaming, like, every single night, practically, takes a lot of spoons, so I get it. Oh, hey, Hannah! Nice to see you! Hannah says, also, sorry, are you okay with me calling you Hannah, or do you prefer your username? I should stop repeating your name, just in case. My husband is an experienced reader. I feel so inexperienced when he extrapolates such insightful and evocative readings. Oh, Alphaba85 says, I've been looking for pagan Twitch channels for so long. Thank you for being here. Well, thank you for being here. If this is your first Tarot Tuesday, folks, grab your tarot deck and bring it over while you watch so we can interact and engage, and you can tell us what you're learning from your deck as we go through these lessons. Hannah, I'm the same with my husband, Dusty, who hasn't been reading tarot regularly in recent years, but before we met, he used to really, really love tarot and really delved deep into it and was really good at reading, and honestly still is really good at reading. I think it's like, it's 70% his knowledge and then 30% his ability to like spin words and ideas together in a way that, I don't, like, I mean this in the best of ways, but he's, like, a master of, like, spinning some bullshit. And when it's based in actual knowledge, it just comes out really, I just get really impressed when he does a reading, basically. Oh no, Dusty's here! I don't know if the stream has caught up to the part where, okay, no, I think it has. Love you, Dusty Buns. Yes, Hannah said it much nicer than I did. It's like they can form the narrative quickly and coherently. Oh, Tyler brings up a really good point for those of you who know me from all the D&D and RPG work I do. Threads between giving compelling readings and being a GM. Hey, Sarah Grace. We always talk a little bit at the beginning, so welcome, welcome. Well, right now I'm just kind of getting a gauge of where everyone is in their tarot journeys right now. But I wanted to talk a little bit about what advice I have for people totally new to tarot and maybe what advice you all have. Specifically, I was asked, I got a deck, but I don't really know what to do with it yet. But we could also maybe give advice for people who haven't picked up a deck at all. Okay, so actually talking about the subject I said I was going to talk about. I think the one rumor that goes around a lot for tarot decks is that you have to be gifted your first deck, or you have to find it, or some way you're not able to go out and buy your own tarot deck. And for me, if it's really meaningful to you that one is gifted, then, and you have friends who have tarot decks who might gift one to you, then talk to them about that and totally get a gifted deck that means something to you. But in general, I don't think there is anything really to that rumor. Really, yeah, Hannah, yeah, that's like a superstition where people think you have to have it gifted or just like stumble upon it. And that feels almost sort of like it's gatekeeping people from delving into tarot. Yes, exactly. She is the Weather says, I don't like that as a rule, to be honest. It is really disadvantageous. It really disadvantages folks who don't have a community yet. Rin says, my first deck was gifted to me, but I don't think it needs to be. Yes. Yes. So I think it's really nice if it is a gift. I mean, in general, things that are gifted have that sort of nice memory to them. But I think one thing that is so exciting about being a tarot reader right now is that through the internet, And honestly, even just more metaphysical shops or bookstores carrying tarot decks, you get access to so many different types of decks out there. Those that lean on different types of symbolism that might speak to you or might not speak to you, art styles that really get you excited about the tarot deck. And you want to be excited about the cards you're reading. You want to feel like, oh, this is the most beautiful thing in the world every time you pull the deck out to do like a daily draw or something. You can find a tarot deck that matches your personality and style and reading style, I think. Although for me, it took me a long time to find out what types of symbols would resonate with me. Ooh, I'm missing a bunch in chat. Raider Tot says, it's totally gatekeeping. I'd rather welcome in anyone who wants to enjoy tarot. My first deck was a gift from my mom, but she bought it for herself. But over half my decks I bought for myself. Yeah, and Hannah actually says, I bought my decks. I don't want someone else's attachments to my decks. Yeah, that's a whole thing too. If you do get gifted a tarot deck, I'd recommend doing some sort of steps to cleanse that deck so that it becomes yours and doesn't have other people's energies clinging to it. And Raider Tot adds, the decks that I resonate with the most have been decks that I've purchased myself. Oh, wow, McCavity Kitty. That's really interesting. They said, I didn't know about that, but my mom gave me my first deck anyway when I asked for it on a past birthday. But growing up Catholic kind of felt like I needed permission anyway. That's a really interesting perspective and totally different from my own. Although I will say my family definitely thought, I got my first tarot deck when I was in middle school. It was like we would go to Barnes & Noble and I would get to choose one thing and my parents would buy that one thing. And I don't know if they weren't paying attention when I came up with the tarot deck, the Goddess Tarot, or they were like, okay, it's just like a toy, but they purchased it for me. But they still had they just thought like that whole interest in New Age things was really weird. That word got tossed around a lot. Oh, call me Kramer. We have missed you too. Wow, welcome back. Things have been tough. Yeah, sometimes you need to just kind of like hunker down and be with yourself. Well, I really appreciate that even though things are tough for you, you took a moment to come leave such a nice message for everybody else. She is the Weather. It was like literally called like Goddess Tarot. And it came in like it was like wider cards. And it has like a light blue box. No, it wasn't called Goddesses of the World. It was definitely literally just Goddess Tarot. Tyler, must be a toy, just like those Cardcaptor Sakura doodads. Okay, so that's like one rumor for if you don't have a tarot deck yet. I just wanted to totally dispel that. But let's all chat a little bit about what do you do once you've gotten your first tarot deck? I think it's really important to try to work with your tarot deck regularly just so that it becomes less intimidating. You don't want it to feel like it's like you need to do like a special ritual in order to consult your cards. I mean, you certainly can if that's something that is special and makes it fun for you. I know for really special readings, I will open like a whole ritual circle and make that part of my work in the circle. But I don't want it to feel like so mystical that you avoid it. Those of you who are writers, maybe the feeling I'm trying to describe is when you buy really pretty notebooks and then you're way too scared to write in them. I don't want you to feel that way about your tarot deck. Raider Tot, yes, that is a great advice and a great way to just start to familiarize yourself with the feel of your tarot cards. Raider Tot says, first thing is shuffle. The cards need a good shuffle when used since they're all in order. Yeah. And shuffle them in whatever way feels good to you. Oh, Bianca, thank you for the Boxster check. I like to shuffle them like playing cards. So it's really important to me, actually, the size and feel of the paper stock. So if I can do that comfortably, because I have really tiny hands. Or, I mean, you can like put them all down on a clean table and just kind of like move them and shuffle them all around to get them really mixed up and touch every single card. Rin says, the first thing I do is sit with it and shuffle for a few minutes to feel the energy. Then I look at all of the art and read the little book. Yes, I really like going through the cards one by one and just enjoying the art. Sometimes I will do that before I shuffle, depending on how your cards are finished. I find, especially those that have like that gold or rose gold like foil on the edge, can sometimes be a little sticky together. So I like to go through all the cards in order and separate all the cards before I do my shuffle. Hannah says, there's a ritualism to tarot depending on how you approach it. There's a familiarity to tarot if it is a daily draw. She is the weather. As soon as you said writers, I was like, I'm about to be called out. I was not wrong. Yeah. Dusty's, you're an obsessive shuffler? What does that mean, to be an obsessive shuffler? Does that mean, like, I know shuffling is very important to you because of like Magic the Gathering, and it was really important to have your cards randomized. Do you have like a certain number that you shuffle, or do you feel like you just shuffle endlessly? Or you just like shuffling things? It could mean so many things. Elpheba says, I tend to alternate by making 5 piles. Alternate 1 card per pile till you run out of cards, if that makes sense. I think that's really good for your first shuffle, to just get cards really mixed up well. I do Vegas-style shuffling, says Hannah, like we're about to play poker. There's a seriousness and ritual to it. She is the weather says, I shuffle 3, 5, or 7 times and cut once. Dusty says, based on playing like magic cards and stuff, a mathematical standpoint is to have at least 7 riffle shuffles. Bianca, that's a great question, and kind of leads into what our main topic will be a little bit later. But do you shuffle trying to be mindful of reversed cards? So for me, I try not to pay too much attention to whether I'm holding my cards, my deck, in a way that will make reversed cards or purposely not make reversed cards. I like to feel that the reversals are sort of random as well. I know Dusty doesn't read reversals, so he always has his cards right side up. Raider Tot says, the shuffling and feeling of the cards in my hands is how I focus and set my attention, attuning myself to the deck before the reading. Yes. So yeah, just getting the feel of your cards, shuffling them, mixing them, that is a great place to start. And then from there, there's a number of things you can do depending on what feels right to you and your tarot deck. One thing that a lot of folks like to do with a new deck is to look up an interview spread. So I talk about this a bunch. This is the book I use to do, I do lessons and then share them with you as part of Tarot Tuesday. And it is called Intuitive Tarot. It is by let me see if I center it. Put my face behind it. Does it focus? It focuses enough. It is by Bridget Esselmont of Biddy Tarot, which is a great resource. And they have an interview spread in here, which is a spread of cards, and each card you draw asks the deck a question, like you're interviewing the deck, asking it basically like, what types of topics are you here to guide me on? Like, what is your like personality as a deck? How can we best work together? What is our potential, excuse me, I'm going to drink a little bit of water so I don't cough. Basically questions like that. Just getting to know your deck and how it can be a good partner for you. So that's one option. You can do an interview spread. If it's your first time reading tarot at all, an interview spread with, goodness, 5, 7, or more cards might feel intimidating to do at once. So I think just to get used to reading tarot cards and just starting to learn the meanings. Another thing that folks recommend is to do daily draws. So that means every day you could make it part of your morning ritual or routine. But I don't shuffle your cards if that's what you want to do. That's what I would do. I would shuffle my cards and I would ask it something. It could be something really broad, like, well, what wisdom do you think I should focus on today? What wisdom do you have for me today? And pick a card and interpret that. Or if you have something really specific, like maybe you're doing a presentation, you can ask it, how can I sit with my nerves and anxiety today? And ask it a specific question about your day. Hey, Brittany, I'm so glad you joined. I got an emote, so thank you for the subscription. Let's cheer and see, let's say thanks and see what our emote is. It is, oh, it looks like a cute, like, little hands holding up a little heart banner. Love it. Love getting emotes. Thank you. Oh, hey, DC. Thanks for joining. We're just talking about being new to tarot and what to do. But I think those were my two main suggestions for folks, to do an interview spread or to do daily draws and start with that. Or you can do kind of what I did in my recent revisit of the tarot, which is to get an awesome book and use the book to learn your tarot cards. If you know that your cards are part of the Rider-Waite-Smith tradition, another book that's really good that Dusty recommended to me, this one is a classic in tarot. It's called 78 Degrees of Wisdom. It is by Rachel Pollack. And there's so many different editions of this book. I think I tried to get the most recent one. But if your deck is in the Rider-Waite-Smith tradition, which is a particular deck that popularized tarot, and a lot of modern decks use a lot of the similar symbolism and like the base of what like the art would look like the writing equivalent would be like using it as an outline. But the style of the art might be really different. They might switch some of the symbols around. But this will go in depth with each card and tell you about it. And then the one I really like, again, is Intuitive Tarot, which is more of a workbook. Basically, you get, it's supposed to teach you how to read tarot in 31 days. I've been taking it much slower, but if you wanted to, you could do one of these lessons or read one of these chapters every single day and speed learn the tarot. Uh-oh, did someone try to post a link? I do not recognize this person. All right, but for folks who are regulars who I trust to send me good links, if you want to post a link, you can DM it to me on Twitch and I'll paste it for you. Ooh, now you have 3 tarot decks. They're growing, Brittany. Tyler says, does anyone bring a small pad, cloth, or mat around with them for cards for laying them out on, keeping them off surfaces ritually or cleanliness? If so, any specific materials? That's a really good question. I really like tarot wraps. So this is mine. It's not one that I've made, although I have made a couple before. I just don't like sewing so much. But it has like a little pouch. That's where your tarot cards go. And this part of the cloth that like flaps closed to close the pouch. This one is about the same size as the pouch, so there's room for like one card that I could place on it. But there are some folks who make them so that the fabric wraps around several times, so it's basically unwraps into a cloth itself. And this all feels like cotton, and the outside of this one is canvas. It's a little sturdier of a material. This is from a maker in Alaska that I really love. I love this, like, the closure is this, like, rough braided fabric, and I just love that it, like, wraps around a bunch of times and looks really worn and messy, but in a cool way. Raider Tot says, I keep my decks wrapped in scarves, not silk as I'm vegan, but yeah, I keep my cards wrapped, and when doing readings, I place cards only on the scarf. That's really clever, to use the scarf as the wrap itself. Hannah repurposed a box and keep the wand and my deck together. Oh, Tyler, yes. Coming from playing competitive trading card games, I kind of want a small game mat for my tarot readings, but soft and pretty. That's what the background of my card cam over here is. It's an altar cloth or a tarot spread cloth. And it's just basically like a cotton bandana, I think. It's probably just printed on a cotton bandana. Ooh, She's the Weather says, I'm learning to weave, so I'm considering weaving my own tarot cloth. That is very cool. I love, like, handmade things. It makes it so special. Let's see. My desk is currently a card table, so I want to feel more intentional when doing a draw. Yeah, so I'm trying to think, does anyone else have tips for folks who have their tarot deck and are figuring out what next? I feel like we've covered that a bunch, so I'm out of insights, but I welcome any last minute insights before we start talking about card reversals. Reversed cards, today's main topic. Brittany, always multitasking on something very cool. Brittany's working on a tarot deck writing project. Nice. Ooh, yes. Alphaba says moon charging is good. So especially on a full moon, leaving your tarot deck in a windowsill where the moonlight will shine in. Rin, the recommendation is to cleanse a new deck. I'm going to be honest. I was going to say I'm going to be honest. I don't know if I always do cleanse decks when I get them. Decks that I really, really like, I go all out. Like, I'll open my circle, and when I'm doing work, and I'll ask my altar and the elements to bless this deck. So that we can work together on it. That's for decks where I've already kind of resonating with. But Intuitive Tarot breaks down different ways to cleanse a deck, and some of them are so simple as going through the cards one by one, which we kind of already covered in shuffling too. Maybe that's why they're sassy, Brittany. The tarot cards are always sassy. They're your sassy friend. Oh, okay. She's the Weather says, I'm very micro magics oriented, so I cleanse it through using it and attuning it to myself. Kind of like cleaning up as I go. Oh, Hannah, thanks for stopping by. Oh, Hannah mentioned the blue moon that we're getting on Halloween. I don't know if anyone has special plans for Blue Moon-a-ween. I'm playing, not at night for the blue moon, but I'm playing some Among Us with friends on this channel. 9 to probably a little bit before 11 Pacific time. Right here. I'm really excited. That game is too fun. It is too fun to secretly murder your friends. Try to get away with it. Oh, New Coven's first remote ritual. That's really cool. And also my anniversary with my partner. You have some awesome things to look forward to this weekend. Oh, Monster Prom. Wait, is that the computer game where you basically, I mean, where you monsters try to get someone to ask them to prom? Tyler, we have not played Among Us since the last stream. I have played some online Among Us. Well, I guess it's all online. I have played with, like, random people online. And sometimes you get a fun game or a fun group, but a lot of times you get like groups where some folks are immature and they'll spam the chat when discussions open with like gross stuff. So that's not fun to me. I think I'm going to do some Halloween baking. What are you going to bake, Sarah? Alphaba says, do you have any suggestions for stubborn decks? I feel like if I had a deck that felt like it was being stubborn, I would maybe cleanse it, and then after cleansing it, do an interview spread. Try to understand why am I feeling this way about this particular deck and how can we work together. There are some decks where I don't know if I'd use the word stubborn, but I just know that I don't vibe with them. I collect a lot of decks, though. I really need to... I'm a lot more selective these days, but I have a bunch, and some of them are gorgeous, and I hold on to them to gift to people who come into my life, and who I feel like I came into my life to give to this person. Rin similarly will gift things away, although she will lock them up for a few days and then try cleansing them before using them. Ooh, Sarah Grace, you got that skull cakelet pan. I know what you're talking about. You're going to try to make something in that. Mini cakes are little pizza things. That's super fun. Okay. I've been trying to pivot to talking about reversed cards, so there's not going to be a smooth transition. It's just going to be, hey everyone, let's talk about reversed cards now. All right, what is everyone's attitudes about card reversals? Do you read them? Do you, like Dusty, just always flip the cards upright? Do you shuffle your cards so the cards stay upright? How do you feel about reversed cards? Are you unsure about them? Do you use like white book or app interpretations? What'd you do? Oh, actually, I lied. Okay, one last tip for new people, because I said the word app and that reminded me. I really like downloading. I have a folder on my phone of multiple different apps. Probably my two favorites to consult are the Golden Threads Tarot app and Mystic Mondays, which both have actual physical decks they're associated with. But the apps are great because they have a database of what the interpretations are. Golden Threads is very, like, matter-of-fact, traditional interpretations. And Mystic Mondays, there's a lot more flourish to how they're written, but they give a lot more... I mean, in a lot of ways, Mystic Mondays interpretations are kind but firm in tone. They will also couch the interpretation in different contexts. There are longer descriptions for that. So those are two apps that if you're learning meanings and you don't want to always have to look in a book, or your deck didn't come with a book, those are free apps you can download. You can also use those apps even before you have a tarot deck to do just like press a button and you draw a card. Okay, let's see what folks said. Alphaba says, I read them with my Rider White deck, but it felt weird to do it with my other decks. I suppose it would depend on the deck. She is the Weather says, I read them as blocking or absence of the energy of the card that the card represents. Bianca says, I like reverse cards, but I have to change my assumption that they are bad. Yes. So a big part of why I wanted to talk about this topic was to sort of like demystify reversed cards and get rid of that perception that get rid of that perception that they're bad, and get rid of that feeling of when you're doing a drawing and you flip the card over and it's upside down. I have an immediate emotional response to that. And the emotional response is, oh no, it's reversed. So you're not the only one, Bianca. Yes, Golden Threads. They have the very matter-of-fact short meanings. Tyler says, I don't use reverses, always keeps them upright. I feel like it's advanced. I have a long way to go. Reversals will be able to make them seem a little less intimidating. I don't use reverse cards in readings because the book I was reading when learning said that tarot is a complete story and doesn't need reversal. So I'm really interested in hearing other perspectives. That's another thought, which is that, I mean, and it's what I've done to try to be less intimidated when I flip over a reversed card. I kind of treat every card, whether it is actually drawn upright or reversed, I treat it like it could be either meaning, depending on the context of the reading and what makes sense with the other cards. Rin says, when I first started, I read them as opposites. A lot of people do. But now I'll either consult the book or just what I think it's telling me. Yes, listen to that intuition. Oh, hey, Grinning Greg. Nice to have you. So let's talk a little bit about different ways to interpret reversed cards. And then we'll talk about, well, how do you know which way is the right way for you, or when to use which one, and all of that. And I picked a few cards from my tarot deck and made sure they were reversed, and I've put different crystals on them. So from left to right, this is a carnelian, this is a big amethyst chunk, this is a quartz, and this is a little amethyst chunk. And for each method, we'll see if how this works out, but for each method, I'm going to ask chat to pick one of the cards. And so you can tell me which crystal, and I'll flip that card over, and then we'll try to work together to interpret the card in the way that Intuitive Tarot is instructing us, because they have 4 different methods. None of which are, it's the opposite, which I feel like is everyone, it kind of like makes sense. It's upside down, so it's the opposite. Okay. Method 1 is that the card represents internalized energy. So let's pick a card that is very much about community and external energy. I'm thinking of maybe the 3 of Pentacles, which is all about folks working together sort of as a team and accomplishing something together. But if you get that in reversed, what it might be telling you is to take that same meaning, that same energy of that card, but bring it inside. So reversed might be telling you it's not necessarily about working with other people or bringing a project to fruition. Internally, it might be, well, are the different pieces of you in sync? Are your heart and your mind working together? Let's see, what am I missing? Yeah. Well, that's a great point. Feeling how reversals feel within the reading. Yes, context is so important. Okay. Let me see if there's anything I missed in expressing this. What Bridget emphasizes is that this interpretation of reversed means internal rather than external energies. Isn't inherently good or bad. And Bridget really likes that because it moves you away from reversed cards are bad and that mentality. So, folks, which card do we want to try to practice reading internally? I've got one for Chonky Boy, which I'm going to guess is Big Amethyst, and Rin likes Carnelian. What's also nice about this technique is that if you have a drawing, a spread that is like almost all reversed cards, you know it has to do with something with your internal energy, and that's where you need to focus, which is really different from seeing a bunch of reversed cards and thinking, oh no, what bad things are going to happen to me because it's all reversed cards, it must be bad. Injustice 156 says, if I watch an ad during your stream, do you get the money? You know what? I honestly do not know. I don't know how ads work. I've tried to hit as many settings as I can to make it not show people ads. Like, if you sub, I think you don't have to watch ads as part of my VODs. But I wish I knew that answer. That's a great question, Tyler. How does that work if the card is about internal energy? So it might be, say, like a Four of Swords, which is really about you need to stop and exercise some self-care and rest. That's really about re-energizing your internal you. I wonder if in reversed it's like emphasizing it, it's underlining it for you. All right, it looks like most people are picking Chonky Amethyst. So we're going to move the Amethyst. We're going to flip the card. We got Reverse Death. So the Death card is another one that like seems really scary because it's called Death. But I really like, and I'm going to flip it upright just for, no, this is all about reverse cards. We're going to look at it upside down. I really like this one because it's very hopeful. It's like, from the death of this bird springs forth flowers, and it emphasizes that death is part of a cycle, and you have to say goodbye to some things to start something new. This is one of my favorite cards. Reverse Death is my new band name, right? Okay, so upright, the Death card could symbolize something like maybe a friendship ending, maybe a literal loss, maybe you're moving on from one career and starting something new. Those are all external things. So what does reverse death mean to you if we're interpreting it as internalized energy? Thank you, Rin. Yeah, this is my favorite deck for working with things. The images just really speak to me and help me remember what the different cards represent. Yes, she is the weather. Death is transformation. All right, so Dusty says it's stagnation, stasis, inability to transform oneself. Procrastination in life, says Brittany. Yes, she is the weather, says, yeah, stagnation, need to change and can't, unwilling to change. Yes. Alphaba says death reverse may be about rebirth. Grinning Greg says, let the thing you are obsessing about mentally go. So a lot of you are seeing this as someone who has this like internalized energy of resisting change. And that this card is encouraging them that they need to embrace this and let the parts of themselves that can change do so, and not kind of hold on to old ways of thinking. To me, it could also be a symbol that there is a transformation occurring. If we're speaking purely of just, this is just moving the meaning to being internal, that it's not about an outward friendship or relationship or career or project, but it's about you. Something about you is transforming. And that you should honor that, be aware of that, and also be proud and also gentle with yourself, because change is hard. But again, I feel like ultimately everything to me depends on any particular reading. I love that, Brittany. You're in your chrysalis stage. Okay. That is method 1, internalized energy. Method 2 and 3, I think, are a little closer to what a few of you have mentioned in chat and how you read reversals now. So method 2 is too much or too little energy. So basically, to me, that kind of feels like, it's like the upright card, but something is definitely out of whack. And so the example that Bridget gives is, maybe you get the Queen of Wands. Upright, she's a really like confident person who's able to navigate social situations. But what if you took that energy and you made it too much and they become like kind of overbearing and domineering? Or maybe it's too little and you don't have enough confidence in the situation, and the card is trying to encourage you to be more confident. Oh, hey, Chris. Secretly lurking. I shall hydrate. I shall check my cup for bugs. Okay, then I shall hydrate. Oh my god. I just tried to type intuitive tarot and it came out intuitive tator. I'm glad you're looking up the book though. It's so good. Okay, so which of these cards, we have Carnelian, Quartz, and Little Amethyst. Which of those do we want to try to interpret as too much or too little energy? It's not a bug, it's a creature. Oh, people are voting for all different ones. Carnelian has the most right now. Carnelian, Little Amethyst. I'll wait for one more, see if someone breaks the tie. Oh, now everything's tied. Oh, no. There's 3 for Carnelian. I totally missed Britt's first one. Okay, we're going to do Carnelian for this one. This is a really interesting one to get for too little or too much. It is the Two of Pentacles, which is a balance card. So that's interesting that you're getting too little or too much of a card that is all about finding balance. A card that's all about just right. You can see the squirrel is balanced on these rocks. We have these chrysanthemums, which I've talked about before, which represent like careful pruning away. So what would be too much balance? Too much balance or too little balance? I feel like that's a little bit easier. Brittany says too much of a good thing, perhaps. Grinning Grig points out that that squirrel is very talented balancing on all those rocks. Yeah, I can't even balance on my skates. Too much balance is apathy, says Bianca. Maybe. Too much is stagnation, says She Is the Weather. What if it's complacency and balance? You've become too comfortable. Tyler says stagnation. Oh, all of you are like really nailing this. Stagnation, too much staying in the middle, things don't break but don't flourish either. Yeah, it could be that you're being too careful, that sometimes you kind of really need to lean into something and run with it. And you're finding safety in the middle ground. Yes, She Is the Weather. Can't necessarily grow if there's nothing to challenge one. Too much balance is being wishy-washy, says Grinning Greg. Alphaba, we are looking at the Two of Pentacles, a card about balance. Grinning Greg says, not standing for anything. Yes. What is too little of this energy? What would be probably this would be based off of context, or feel free to, if you're reading for another person, I mean, if you're reading for yourself, you can internally ask yourself questions. If you're reading for another person, this can become a discussion. So you could ask, like, well, what role do you think balance plays in your life right now? Is it something you concern yourself over? Or how do you concern yourself over balance? Rather than yes or no questions, like questions that prompt someone to think and respond in sentences is a little better. Saying yes to everything and the illusion of balance. Things seem kosher, but there's actually chaos. Not enough balance equals obsession, hyper-focus, juggling too many things. Yes. Oh, you all are great intuitive readers. You are all spot on. False equivalency, says Tyler. If it's interrupting reversals as too much or interpreting reversals as too much or too little, you need context of the other cards, perhaps, on which way to read it. Yes. Going back to that Queen of Wands example, I want to read these questions that Bridget writes. So for Queen of Wands, that was in reverse. That was talking about confidence and being in social situations. So when I'm reading the cards in this way for a client, I'll often pose it as a question. What role does confidence in social settings play for you? Do you feel overconfident, or do you want to find a quiet corner where you can hide? And I'll often follow up with, how can you make confidence in social settings work for you? This is how you can bring this energy back into how can you bring this energy back into balance and alignment? Super empowering, right? Yeah, so feel free to ask someone questions. You don't have to be like this like perfect future predicting like arbiter of the cards. All right, the next one is super, super similar, but the focus is a little bit different. Method number 3 is about blocked energy. So it's the energy of this card, and like that might be something you want. That might be your goal to achieve that card, but there's something that is blocking you from having the energy of that card. For example, says Bridget, the reversed Temperance card may indicate that you are seeking out moderation and harmony in your life, but right now there's something blocking you from fully experiencing that positive energy. So this really kind of helps you focus on, okay, well, what's the issue here? What do we have to actually deal with? Which is really good, I think, for like figuring out what actions need to be taken. Because sometimes like you do a spread and it's like, okay, well, what now? This kind of gives you like, well, this is what you have to deal with next. All right. Brittany is feeling the Lil Amethyst for this card. What about the rest of you? Lil Amy, says Ren. I like the Little Amethyst because it's like a little bit coffin shaped. That's why I keep on to this one. I like when crystals are sort of shaped like stuff. Alright, everyone's voting Lil Amethyst. We're going to flip this one over. The King of Cups. Interesting. So the King of Cups is the king of his emotions. I feel like he is very balanced in his emotions, but is also has this like gentle, kind, understanding energy about him. So if we're talking about blocked energy, then how would you interpret a reversed King of Cups? I feel like a reversed King of Cups would be the opposite of an understanding, empathetic person. Or there's something that's stopping you from being that. Tyler says, I think I really like the idea of reverse being blockages. Alongside the thought that there are no cards are good or bad, just inevitable progress, pathways before you that you either actively take or actively avoid. Reversed King is hashtag 2020, says Bianca. Blockages is being stuck there. You aren't able to get that gentle energy, says Brittany. Your cup is empty, and it's been empty, and it needs to be filled in order for you to be fulfilled as a person. Oh, yes, that empty cup imagery that you can't... I'm totally blanking on what the phrase I was trying to think of was. Okay, whatever. It's an empty cup. Like, you can't, like, pour into someone else. You can't give from an empty cup. You're already running on fumes. Yes, Brittany agrees. It's peak 2020 energy. Yeah, so it might be you don't have room for empathy for others because you barely have any energy for yourself. That's a very 2020 mood there. Oh, I'm going to hydrate. That's another way to say that, Ren. The King of Cups is out of spell slots. No long rests. Okay. This last method is really fun. upside down imagery. So this one is, to me, a little bit out there and it might be difficult depending on what your deck's artwork looks like. But the idea is to look at the actual imagery as it's upside down and just intuit what that tells you. So the example they give is the Ten of Swords. So in almost every deck I've seen, the Ten of Swords is a person or an animal or something on the ground with 10 swords stabbed into it. And when you reverse it, then it's almost like those swords are going to like fall away from this animal or person or creature. And I suppose then you could interpret the Ten of Swords as someone being able to get over and move past this great hurt or betrayal that's been done to them. Oh no, that's the 3. The 3 is the poor cardinal who's done nothing wrong. I'm pretty sure the Ten of Swords is a fox who's potentially done nothing wrong, who's been stabbied. Yeah, so the last one we have is this quartz. I don't know what this is going to look like upside down. Okay. So, I am looking at the Four of Pentacles. It's a card that often warns against greed. Upright, this is a blue jay that's collecting all of its knickknacks and such. And I'm actually imagining this upside down. It feels like the bird is going to fall and be crushed by all of this mass of this horde of things that it has collected. They're just going to topple on top of the bird. That's what I'm getting from this Four of Pentacles. What about you all? Four of Pentacles reversed imagery. Let me hold this up so you can actually see it a little better. Now I picture it was Cardinal versus Fox in some Shakespearean tragedy. That's awesome. Yeah. So, this one I find, like, intimidating because, like, what if you have a really sparse deck? And so there's not a lot of, like, images of things interacting with each other that would change when they're turned upside down. Bianca says, he's falling and it makes me sad. Check your bird before you wreck your bird. Sarah Grace says, mine is a man holding on to the pentacles, so losing his grasp on what he is hoarding. Yes, it almost feels like you're collecting things, and then you're going to lose control. Kind of looks like the bird is choking. Yeah, it's got like it's got more things it's trying to collect in its beak. Unchecked chaos. Yeah, to me, this is like the Four of Pentacles upright maybe warns against greed. And then in reverse, it's like you're way past that point and it's going to bite you in the butt. Bite you in the booty. That's what it's going to do. So those are the 4 methods. And then I think this little activity worked out. I'm glad. I was like, I don't know if the ones that we pick are going to make sense for that particular method, but hey, they all worked out. And maybe it's because these methods will apply to every card. I definitely appreciated everyone's help in chat, interpreting them too. Rin says it's a little less intimidating now. Yeah, so it's instead of trying to memorize another 78 card meanings, you pick a method or several methods or just different ways to think of reversals, and they just kind of modify the meanings that you're already teaching yourself. Reader Tot says, I really like this activity. Each of the methods is really interesting. And Brittany says, yeah, also they aren't necessarily negative or bad. Yes, doing this with all of you helped me a lot too, where I feel like I'm going to be less intimidated next time I get a reversed card. And my brain is probably going to work its way to being reprogrammed to not be like, oh no, it's reversed, it's bad, to, oh, it's reversed. So this card is trying to tell me something a little extra. has a particular message for me. Oh, you all are darlings. Everyone in chat is saying that that this activity really helped them and gave them a lot to think about. So the next part, as we wrap up, is just how do you know what method to use? So there's a number of ways. I think for me personally, when I see a reversed card, that's going to prompt my brain to start asking questions. And those questions and answers to those questions will depend on the context of the other cards. It would be really hard for me to feel like I pick one method and just stick with it. But that is another option. You could mentally be like, okay, and it could depend on the deck you're working with too. Maybe one deck to you just feels right, like it will always be reversed imagery. Maybe one deck, like the art and symbolism in it works really well with reverse imagery, and that's just always how you're going to interpret things with that deck. But maybe something feels right for a different deck. Maybe that one feels like reverses definitely need to be blockages of energy. It doesn't always have to be the same. And so the different things here are mentally agree to use one method only, go with your gut instinct, and look at the other cards in the readings, which is kind of a mishmash of all of the things I said. I was kind of like, do all of them. Oh, that makes me really happy, Raider Tot. It actually makes me want to go through a deck and intuit some reversal meanings. Well, if this is inspiring you to go do more tarot and spend some bonding time with your tarot decks, then you know what? Mission accomplished. That's all I want to do for folks. So that was reversed cards. I don't know which chapter I'll do next time. At some point I want to do a chapter about tarot spreads and making your own tarot spreads and basic tarot spreads. Don't know if that's next week though, but we'll figure it out. We'll continue going through intuitive tarot, or if folks have particular questions, let me know in the chat and maybe that will become our topic. That's how we skipped ahead and did reversed cards today. But let me tell everyone where you could find me the rest of this week. So Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific time. I know a lot of you are familiar with our dear friend Friday Elliott of Friday Afternoon Tea. Well, Friday and I, at 11 a.m. on twitch.tv/DND, are going to be doing my last Dungeons and Daisies episode of the year. Dungeons and Daisies is sent kind of quarterly. It's whenever there's a fifth Friday of the month. Interview show where I interview someone about what they do in tabletop role-playing games. And so for Friday, that will be how she comes up with all of these nerdy tea blends for her tea shop. But at the same time, I teach them how to arrange flowers, which is kind of what I was doing as my full-time job when I started in D&D. I was a floral designer. So learn how to make flowers, listen to Friday talk about her amazing life and all the things she does. Dungeons and Daisies, Friday, 11 a.m. Pacific time, twitch.tv/DND. Then, Saturday, at 9 a.m. Pacific time, me and Dusty Buns upstairs, and a bunch of my friends, Hannah Rose, James Hake, Celeste Conowitch, Jessica Ross, Jen Vaughn, Latia Jacques, gonna feel bad, like, didn't start counting when I started naming names, so now I don't know where I am. But there's 10 of us total, and we're gonna be playing Among Us. Basically, it's a game where it's similar to Werewolf or Mafia, where someone is there to basically sabotage our space station, or there's other maps that it can be on that's not a space station. And we have to try to figure out who they are while they try to murder all of us and stop us from figuring out who they are. It's a lot of lying to and betraying your friends. Yeah, Chris, Hannah is sus. If you want to watch the first episode on my YouTube, I posted the first episode VOD for some easy viewing, and I definitely suspected Hannah every single time, and like yeeted her into space because I would vote for her to be the imposter. And then I think one of the last games I was like, okay, I feel really bad. I promise not to suspect you this time. And she was the imposter. The game was listening to us. Oh my gosh, Grinning Greg, you're addicted to that game? Dusty's the same, although he's taken a break and has been playing Hades, which he really likes. Yeah, it's really addicting Among Us, because the rounds are so short. You can always just play one more. So that'll be a fun Halloween game. I might be doing something spoopy and fun in the afternoon or evening for Halloween, but I don't know if that's announced yet. It's kind of like a fun last minute thing. So follow me on Twitter at Lisa Penrose for when I announce that. And then Sunday at 5 p.m. Pacific time, I will return with a story time. And this time we're going to be reading To Be or Not To Be, which is a pick your path adventure book where you try to basically not do all the mistakes Hamlet did in Hamlet, which should be super fun. Oh, yes, Raider Tot. I saw Brittany streaming Hades, and the art just looked so good. I definitely, in November, I think I'm going to play some runs of that. Alphiba85, any good advice for Samhain simple rituals? I will say something I really want to do is an apple carving ritual. So I recommend you look those up. It reminds me of doing tiny pumpkin carving, sort of, which is what appealed to me. But I know apples are a really significant symbol of many things. So that's something I'm going to check out. Oh, Brittany, Dusty's already addicted. We don't need two people in the household, like, just playing Hades constantly. Calling out Dusty on the internet. Okay. I had so much fun with everybody for this Tarot Tuesday. Dusty says, I'm in a boss fight. I had so much fun. I'm really glad a lot of you got to tune in. I know it's been a while since I've done a Tarot Tuesday, but we were back into our weekly streams. And I just want everyone to make sure they take the rest of this week to be gentle and kind to yourself, because 2020 certainly isn't. And those of you in the US, the election is coming up, so it's a stressy time. So take care of yourself and each other. Good night, everybody.